As this section has been deeply ES6 related, I figured what better way to end this section but by talking a little bit about what's new with strings in ES6, and that's exactly what we're going to do in this lecture. Alrighty, let's continue and extract out another component. So when we're looking, I'm looking for our header, and let's go ahead, I'm just going to cut it out. Let's save our HTML, and I'm going to go into our component section, create a new file, and I'm going to call it header.js. Let's go ahead and save it. And let's look into our header. First of all, I want to make sure that I replace all my class references. Word wrap, find and replace, where are you? Find and replace. We're going to call class, change it with class name, replace all. Beautiful. And let's make sure that everything here is self-enclosed. That looks good now as well. Beautiful. All right, so let's take this header, and I'm going to go ahead and just create that component. So you know what, let me just steal from our, let's take it from about because it was a little bit more simple. Let's go ahead and just copy everything in here, go into our header. This part was easy, and we're just going to return, and we're going to return our whole header. Beautiful. Now I'm just going to give it a name, and it could be a little bit confusing, but I'm going to give it the name of header. And do we need the section in here? Oh, by the way, no, we don't need the section anymore because we're not using the section. But what we could do now that we've created our header, I could literally just go ahead and include it in my client. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to go ahead here and import it, header from header. So far so easy, and if I literally go inside of here and just add the header, then we should be all set. But I want us to make it a little bit more complex than that, but let's just make sure that everything is still working, and we should now get our header, which is exactly that. Now let's expose this data and make it a little bit more fancy so we could also explore and look into a little bit of the things that are new in ES6, mainly related to strings. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go into my header, and I'm going to send a few properties into it dynamically. So if we look at this, really our content is this, and it's this. So let's go ahead and just like take this content and strip it out, and I'm going to replace it with a this.props, and let's call this, this is going to be title. And let's put here another one, but let's first put it in there. So we'll go to our header, title, set the title to be that. And our next will be, let's see, what's our next thing? And our next will be our subtitle probably. And this is our subtitle, or in this case, skills. But let's go ahead and call this.props, sub t for subtitle. And let's save it, go back into our client. And I'm going to send here our sub t as well. And if we go ahead and save this, so far so good. It should refresh and our content should be running in dynamically. Now, just to wrap things up and to end up this chapter, I just want to show you a few of the new features that are available in strings in ES6. And to do that, to sample that, I'm going to go into my header, and right above here, before we start our rendering, I'm going to do a console log, and I'm going to ask if our this.props title, how about if it starts with, we're basically gonna take out of it starts with master. And let's see what happens. Literally what's going to happen is it should return back and say that it sure does start with that. Now, by the way, this is really useful, and you'll also find ends with, and you'll also find include. And a really, really cool thing that I think that exists is repetition. So I could go into my console log, and for example, let's create here a new let, and I'm going to call it name, and it's going to be Ben. How about that? And a space. And if I do a console log for name, I could literally just go into it and say repeat, and I want to repeat, let's say 10 times. Now, if I go back and I look into my browser, you'll see that now I'm going to get Ben 10 times printed out. Very, very useful stuff. Not a lot of new things in what you could do with strings, but it's quite cool stuff that you could definitely find very creative ways to repeat things instead of having them or repeat or check if things start with, end with, or include some information much more easily in ES6. In this lecture, we explored some of the new ES6 string methods, and with that, we conclude this section. In the next section, we go back to diving deep into component-related stuff as we talk about how do we create reusable components, and through it, we're going to look at a lot of things.